This is the Salmo FATSO, the first lure in the world to deliver the classic crankbait action without the need of a lip. There are many ways to fish the Salmo FATSO, but we will classify this lure as a pull bait. The Salmo FATSO comes in two sizes, a 4-incher and a 5.5-incher. Salmo offers a FATSO in both sinking and floating versions, with weights from 1 5/8 ounce all the way up to 3 3/4 ounce. The Salmo FATSO comes in some great fish-catching colors. Some have natural patterns, and others are made with proven fish-catching colors. Anytime anglers use heavy lures like the FATSO, it is wise to use rods rated for lures of this size. Level wind bait casting reels are the best choice in reels because they are easier for the angler to use for prolonged periods without getting tired. Here's the best tackle choice when fishing with a Salmo FATSO. A bait casting reel with a retrieve ratio of at least 5:1 with 50-pound braided line. A casting rod 6 to 8 feet long rated for lures over 3 ounces, and at least an 80-pound single-strand wire leader with a strong snap. The reason the Salmo FATSO is so effective on catching fish is that it can be fished in many ways to trigger a strike. Anglers of all experience levels will enjoy fishing the Salmo FATSO because it's just so easy to fish and can be fished in so many different ways. One simple but deadly technique is to simply reel in the lure slowly as it wobbles from side to side like a large spoon. The next technique is called pulling and is basically a series of short pulls of the lure with the rod tip being pulled downward motion to the water. And as you raise your rod tip back up parallel to the water, you'll reel up the slack. Now it's key that when you pull downward and as you raise the rod tip up, you remember to reel up the slack in your line, because any slack in your line will make it impossible for you to know when the fish actually strikes, because most strikes will occur when the lure is standing still or just when it stops. So as you pull downward, you must reel up the slack, pull downward, and reel up the slack. Pulling is a very effective technique for fishing the FATSO. Another option is the reel pause technique. For this method, you need to point the rod directly at the lure as you retrieve it, and use the reel and not the rod to give forward motion to the lure. The line is kept tight at all times, as this rapid series of starts and stops with the reel handle gives the FATSO an amazing action. Again, the key here is to keep the rod pointed at the lure at all times, to be poised for a good hook set. But remember, you can start and stop the lure as often and as quickly as you'd like with a random series of pauses with the reel handle to trigger that strike. When selecting which type of Salmo FATSO will work for you, consider the depths the lure will run. A floating FATSO is designed to run in depths from 2 to 6 feet. The best techniques for getting a floating FATSO deeper is to use a fast and steady retrieve and not allow the lure to rise between pulls. If you wish to reach 10 feet or more, the sinking version of the FATSO is a must. With this FATSO, they sink from the very moment they touch the water, so you control the total running depth by the time you allow the lure to sink after each cast. A normal retrieve does not make the bait dive deeper. It actually maintains the depth you start moving the lure at. Now in areas with steep drop-offs, it would be common to stop and allow the lure to sink even deeper halfway back to the boat to get the attention of a fish holding tight to the bottom. One of the really great things about using the sinking FATSO is allowing the bait to be able to sink all the way to the bottom before you start your retrieve. Now to do this, all you simply have to do is make your cast and keep your line tight. As the lure drops and hits the bottom, the line will go slack. Now when you start retrieving the lure will want to stay just above the bottom. So from time to time during your retrieve, you will stop, allow the lure to make contact with the bottom, and then retrieve it again. This motion of the lure coming and breaking away from the bottom can oftentimes be a key technique for triggering those fish to strike. The Number 14 sinking fatso can easily be fished in waters of 20 to 25 foot deep with this technique. You got to give it a try. Pause, let it lay on the bottom, and then pull it off the bottom and get ready for a strike. The Salmo FATSO is not just for casting. It's a great trolling lure as well. And since the lure responds to every twitch of the rod tip, it's best advised to hold the rod while trolling, to give it a unique series of pulls and pauses, to give the fatso an action that you think might catch the attention of a fish. The key when trolling is to not let your rod go beyond the 90-degree angle to the boat, so you are always ready to set the hooks when you get that strike. So there you have it, the Salmo FATSO. It is truly one of the deadliest fish-catching lures you will ever use. You can cast it or you can troll it. You can drag it or you can twitch it. And you will see just how the Salmo FATSO comes alive to trigger big strikes. Give the Salmo FATSO a try. You won't be disappointed.